its place as a democratic leader in Africa. We favor no candidate. We favor that open, transparent, and peaceful process. Elections are the foundation of democracy and the basis for the legitimate transfer of power. But I think it is valuable for us to all reflect on the fact that since 1999, Nigerian voters have successfully exercised their democratic power 6 times to determine the country's next leader. For more than 2 decades, Nigeria has demonstrated to Africa and the entire world its strong commitment to peaceful, credible, and transparent elections. At a time when many places in West Africa are challenging things like term limits and democratic processes, for Nigeria, these rules of the democratic game are deeply internalized and accepted. President Biden and Vice President Harris are personally committed to strengthening democracy in the United States and around the world. At the invitation of the Nigerian government, the Biden administration is advancing our long-standing partnership with INEC and Nigerian civil society organizations. And through USAID, the U.S. is providing nearly $45 million in elections-related support in Nigeria. The United States has full confidence in INEC and its ability to organize and conduct credible and transparent elections. We saw INEC's capabilities on display during successfully concluded off-cycle elections in Ekiti and Osun, and we look forward to seeing that success extended nationwide during the February and March general elections. Our confidence stems in part from the signing of the Electoral Act of 2022. This key legislation strengthened Nigeria's electoral systems, for example, through the use of the BVAS for voter accreditation and the electronic transmission of results. These are proven methods to improve transparency and drastically reduce the potential for vote tampering. The media also has a vital role to ensure that Nigerian voters have accurate news and facts before, during, and after elections. Recently, our U.S. Embassy collaborated with the West Africa Broadcast and Media Academy and the Enugu Literacy Society to launch Project Fact Check Nigeria to train more than 170 radio hosts, producers, and reporters on stopping the spread of misinformation. And over a 6-month span last year, we partnered with the Nigeria Guild of Editors by inviting U.S. media experts and facilitating town hall meetings and workshops in Lagos, Kano, Yola, Abuja, Enugu, and Port Harcourt. We also engaged with journalists and activists from Yobe, Borno, Adamawa, Zamfara, and Katsina on how to identify, investigate, and report instances of misinformation. The National Peace Committee plays an important role in strengthening Nigerian democracy when it encouraged the country's 18 political parties to sign the peace accord on September 29th. I was among the many observers who were reassured to see the parties pledge to run peaceful campaigns without violence or hate rhetoric. As Election Day nears, we urge those political parties to adhere to their peace commitment and the September 2022 pledge. The candidates will soon have another opportunity to affirm their commitment to the democratic process by signing the pre-election day peace accord and accepting the results of the February 25 election. The United States stands firm with Nigerians' voters' demand and desire for complete transparency and electoral integrity. Individuals who undercut or undermine the democratic process in any way, including through intimidation and violence, may be found ineligible for visas to travel to the United States. We have taken steps in the past to impose U.S. visa restrictions against those complicit in undermining the electoral process, and you may have seen that Secretary Blinken announced just yesterday that we have identified specific individuals for such past actions. We will similarly deny or cancel visas for those who try to undermine the upcoming elections. Now, visa records are confidential, so we can't and don't announce the identities of those subject to visa sanctions, but I can tell you that I am personally aware of people whose travel to the U.S. was blocked on these grounds. We look to all Nigerians to speak out against the use of violence or inflammatory rhetoric. Politicians and candidates have every right to challenge their opponent's stance on issues, but the use of inflammatory rhetoric, intimidation, and irresponsible incitements to violence are extremely harmful to the country and to public faith in elections. It is also essential that candidates and their parties do not make brash predictions of victory or instantly claim fraud if they lose at the ballot box. Candidates and parties that seek to run for public office must accept one fundamental truth: losing is always possible. And if a candidate is not willing to accept the possibility that he or she might be defeated, then they probably should not have been running for office in the first place. There is no true, thank you, there is no true democratic election in which the outcome is foretold. In the US, for example, we have seen numerous contests in which a particular candidate seemed certain to win based on popular opinion or pre-election voting data, polling data, only for the votes to prove otherwise. In many political races, voting outcomes are really tough to predict, and the very unexpected can happen on election day. Everyone needs to remember that the only polls that really matter are the ones that INEC will count in late February and in March. Thanks. President Biden remarked at the December 2021 Summit for Democracy that democracy is hard and must be renewed at every step. As members of a global community for democracy, we are invested in supporting other democratic nations. In doing so, we must stand up for the values that unite us, reaffirm our shared commitments, and we must learn from one another. Thank you so very much.